The UN Environment Programme says the planet's water, land, air, plants, animal and fish stocks are all in inexorable decline. Developing countries are faced with record spikes in oil prices and increasingly expensive staple foods. Is it the beginning of a serious social crisis worldwide? This is Inside Story. Hello, I am Hashim Ahelbarra. 2007 has been a hard year for a lot of people in developing countries. Certain countries feel the heavy burden of subsidizing basic goods and are seriously considering doing away with it. Fuel prices doubled on the first day of 2008 in Jordan, and globally as the prices of wheat and soybeans almost doubled during 2007. Economists say the unprecedented rise in staple foods since World War II is due to a combination of reasons, including record oil prices, which shifted one-third of US farmers out of cereals to grow profitable biofuel crops. Another reason is the world climate change that has led to a significant reduction in the global grain supply and stockpile. And finally, the sharp decline of the US dollar, the world's dominant currency. Joining us to discuss the sharp rise in prices of basic goods during the last year are our guests. In Amman, Dr. Ibrahim Saif, an economist and director of the Center of Strategic Studies at the University of Jordan. In Dubai, Ibrahim Khayyat, strategic and business analyst. And in Sharjah, Alexander Mosizov, associate professor at Skyline College in Sharjah. Welcome, gentlemen. Let me start by asking Mr. Khayyat the following question. We're faced with a delicate choice. Goods are either scarce or unaffordable. Is this something that has the potential to become a threatening global crisis, or do you think it's a bit exaggerated?
I think it is right to say that the trade, government policies all over the world are interfering with the natural process where producers can provide households with the proper staff. Also, we have 1 billion people globally who have 80% of the globe resources, while 5 billion, which the rest of the world have only 20%. So here we have a problem, and the interference between these two blocks is really creating a real crisis for the whole trade and agriculture industries.
Mr. Alexander, do you subscribe to the fact that this is a crisis which could have dire consequences?
I agree with opinions. There are more reasons to get worried about. There are, other than trade barriers, there are subsidies, and two sides actually cannot come to common terms. That was shown in Doha in 2006. There should be several issues to address, not only international trade relations, but efficiency of use of land, technology.
We'll definitely
put more capital.
Go in details of all those aspects, but let me start asking Mr. Ibrahim Saif. Now that we have established the fact that this is a real problem, what do you think are the main factors behind that?
Well, I think it's been almost said. What is the main reasons behind this predicament that a small country like Jordan is going through? And I believe this is not a problem that is concerning Jordan per se, but is a problem that is actually influencing most of the import-oriented countries. A country like Jordan and many others in the MENA region or worldwide who imported fuels or imported the basic commodities like wheat, barley and other products are affected by this increase in the international prices, and the countries are actually revisiting their existing policies in order to address and to better handle this problem, which has resulted in staggering inflation rate for 2007, and the expected inflation rate in Jordan for the next year actually is expected even to go to 8 to 9%. And basically, it is actually what is happening in the international market. But also we have maybe to remember that there is a consumption pattern actually that prevailed over the last 2-3 decades in many developing countries, where they became so sort of addicted to cheap fuels and cheap also basic commodities.
So, Mr. Ibrahim Khayyad, is it safe to assume that the main factor behind the rises in the prices of commodities is the spikes in oil prices?
It is one of the reasons. Commodities have increased since Doha World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference, which was the 4th one of its kind, in 2001, have increased by 80%. The agricultural prices have rose by 12% in 2006, and last year probably around 30%, 90% all over the board, over all the board. So one of the issues was we have the weak dollar. This is one of the issues. We have high energy and fertilizer prices. We have crop-specific supply shortfalls. We have droughts. Probably 57 countries last year have been affected by droughts and also by floods. Also, we had now, because of the biofuel issue, we have low stock of agricultural produce, and also we have higher increase in demand, especially for biofuels. So here we have an issue here where the world is affected because of different elements and different players interfering.
Let's talk a little bit in details about some of those main issues, like oil, for example. I'm asking Mr. Alexander. Now we know that with rises in oil prices, importing countries are faced with a delicate choice of breaking some of their promises, stopping injecting money into subsidizing commodities. Is this something that would in the future aggravate the situation and lead to worldwide hunger, for example, in these countries?
Look, one issue that we still didn't look into, the agriculture itself can hardly move forward, develop, expand. The statistics shows that even in the Middle East, North Africa region, less than half of population live in rural areas, but 70% of poor people are in the same rural areas. Need injections of capital. Where do we get it from? Government subsidies. They can come in many forms, but most important form that should be, and if it is there, then we will avoid crisis. It should be investment into education, into technology, into infrastructure, into many advanced methods of technology like irrigation, hydroponics, you just name them. Agriculture needs help.
To do so, Mr. Alexander, we have to start talking about long-term plans. The problem is that we have pressing problems in countries like, we've seen demonstrations in Morocco, we've seen problems in Algeria, we've seen problems in Egypt, just because people are saying enough is enough and life is becoming extremely expensive for us. Mr. Brahim Saif, is this something that is becoming more of a social problem topping the agenda of these countries, poor countries?
Absolutely one of the top priorities, be it in Jordan, Egypt, or the countries that you named like Morocco and Algeria. Indeed, I can see that there used to be a social contract that governed the relation between the state and society in these countries, and subsidies was part of this social contract where consumers could tolerate many things that the government does in these countries, provided that at least they can have access to cheap food and cheap basics, if you may call it. Now, this government, with the increase in the international prices, they can no longer afford to keep subsidizing these commodities. So what we are witnessing now is that these countries, there is a shift from subsidizing commodities to subsidizing the needed people or the poorest segment in these countries and
we'll
these
definitely
societies.
talk more in detail about the subsidizing of goods and commodities. But Ibrahim Saif, are we going to see more of food riots in the future in this part of the world?
I think let's start with that the governments are determined to reduce subsidies. At least this is the case in Jordan, which I'm witnessing, but I visited Egypt quite recently, and actually they are contemplating about this too. Red riot. Now actually there is this threat. I mean, people, there will be some discontent in the street if this reducing subsidies is not really associated with a social safety net to kind of at least temporarily compensate those consumers. Otherwise, we really could witness people out in the street because, as you said, it's enough is enough, and they would like to see a package not only reducing subsidies but also fighting corruption and rule of law and other governance issue that must be also associated with this changing social contracts, as I described it at the beginning. So yes, the situation is quite difficult.
Definitely precarious. Stay with us,
really
gentlemen. There's
depends.
more to come. Time for a short break. When we come back, we take a closer look at subsidizing basic goods and ask whether it works. Stay with us.